My name is Stephen Munatones, and I am the CEO and co-founder of KAATSU Global, and we'll get right into it. I prepared a PowerPoint presentation for everybody who's logging into today's webinar on KAATSU, and we had dozens of questions that were emailed in, so I will actually answer the questions as I'm explaining KAATSU. And this is a illustration of something we probably all studied in biology class or a health class in high school or college. And that shows obviously the main organs and the veins. And it doesn't show, it shows the veins and arteries. It doesn't quite show the number of capillaries we have. And KAATSU, as a basic modality, just at the very fundamental essence of KAATSU, is a modality that actually works to increase the elasticity of our vascular system. That's it. Now, as a result of that, we do all kinds of things. We can build muscle, we can increase our stamina, we can increase strength, we elicit hormonal response. But at the very fundamental core of KAATSU is an increased elasticity of our vascular system, which includes our arteries, veins, and capillaries. Now, many of you have the KAATSU equipment, and you know that you have you place the bands on your upper arms and upper legs. In this particular illustration, we're only showing a KAATSU armband, and it's rather narrow, as we all know. And the purpose of this is actually to work on the venous return. So just so everybody knows, and probably many of you already know, but when our heart pumps, it pumps blood out and then out through our arteries, and those arteries go down to our hands and down to our feet, up to our brain, etc. The veins that we often talk about and see, those are the vascular, that's the vascular tissue that brings the blood back from the hands, the feet, and the head back to the heart. So we have the arteries that go out and the veins that come back. KAATSU, in particular, works on the veins. So when this band is inflated, what happens is the blood goes in normally. So there's an unimpeded, uninterrupted arterial flow, we say. So the blood goes from the heart out to the hands or out to the feet. And when this band is inflated, it acts as a small dam, if you will. And that dam slows down or modifies the venous return, which is the blood flowing back from the hands and feet. And that's why you get a pinkening or a rosy color to your hands or your legs when you have the KAATSU on. Now, although we study in biology class this very classic illustration with the arteries going out, indicated in red, and blue coming back, indicating our veins, in reality, we have innumerable capillaries. These are very, very fine, small vascular tissue. They're much smaller than the arteries, much smaller than the veins. And this is what Dr. Sato, Dr. Nakajima, Dr. Morita, and all the other cardiologists in Japan focused on. This is the incredible discovery that they made. And that is, when you put the KAATSU bands on the arms or legs, you then effectively and practically, engorge all of your limbs and all of the capillaries in blood. And that is the catalyst for what happens next. And Dr. Sato, Yoshiaki is his first name, from Tokyo. He received a patent, and this patent is formally called a compression and decompression, or the cycle mode. It's a control system that those are the little what do you call it? Controllers that you have either on the B2 unit that's actually on your bands or on a C4 that you can hold. And this is a vascular strengthening method. Now, we say strengthening just like a muscle strengthens, our vascular tissue strengthens by becoming more elastic. And that is what KAATSU is. So let's get into your questions right away. And I think as we answer these questions, then you can learn more about KAATSU. So the first question we received was, how do you know when to progress to a higher pressure? I currently use the medium air bands, medium pressure on the air bands, but when should I increase to a high pressure? And that is actually related to another question from a separate user. And she said, when using the KAATSU B2 app in the cycle mode, how do you determine when to increase the SKU or the standard KAATSU unit from low to medium to high? Also, how should I determine when to increase the weight you're using? So these two questions submitted separately are actually related. Now, remember, this is what we're aiming for, a vascular strengthening method. And this is in reality what our body looks like. We're using the bands on our upper arms or upper legs to achieve that. So to answer this question, when do I know how to progress from a higher pressure? We use what we call capillary refill time. And the capillary refill time is, we call it's a very simple method, and I'll explain the background of that through these photographs. So this is a photograph of a 56-year-old woman. She has no KAATSU band on her left or right hand, but on your left side, and she has a KAATSU band on her other side. Now, when she puts KAATSU on as a regular user, what happens is that arterial flow continues into her hands or feet, but then it is slowed down coming back, and therefore that extra blood, that engorgement of blood in her hands, fills in all of those tiny, tiny capillaries that are represented in this illustration. So it fills up here. Now, in order to know when to go from low to medium or medium to high, what we do is we press our thumb right in this area. Just press your thumb or your forefinger firmly. Just press it and then release. So you press it and release. Press right here, and then you release it. Then count how long it takes for that temporary blanching or the whitening of the skin here to turn back to this rosy or pink color. So in other words, we're pushing the blood out of the surface capillaries here, and then we're filling in. You can count as in 1001, 1002, 1003. If you put your bands on at any time and you press here on your hand and it exceeds 3 seconds. So if you press here and the blood does not come back within 1001, 1002, 1003, you either have the bands on too tightly or you have too high a pressure. So 3 seconds or over, it's too tight. Now, ideally, you want that under a second. As in, I push here with my thumb or my forefinger, I release, and then by the time I end up 1001, it is already returned back in color. If you do that in low pressure, that is your body telling you you can go to medium pressure. If you do it within 1 second, 1001, if you're in the medium pressure, then you can go up to high pressure. And I'll show you here, this is another view of the same woman. So this is a non-KAATSU arm, and this is, you can't see the band, but it's on her upper arm. This is her KAATSU arm. She presses right here, she counts 1001, and if this blood comes back within 1 second, then she can go up to a medium or high. Now, I asked a swimmer, he was using our KAATSU aqua bands here. It was easier. So he pressed on the leg. So on the arm, we use this meaty part of our palm. On the leg, you can press right above your kneecap in your quadricep. If you're wearing long pants or leggings or etc., you can do the same thing down on your calf. But for illustration purposes, I asked this KAATSU user when he was swimming in the pool to press and check his capillary refill time. And then when he released, I took that photo immediately. And you can see when he released that the area under his thumb became white. Now, immediately after this, 1001, it went back to the rosy color. So again, what he did was he pressed here, released, it was within a second, and then he was able to use a higher pressure. So in order to answer that question, when do I progress to a higher pressure? If you go from low to medium or medium to high, always check your capillary refill time here on your meat of your palm or up on your leg, and check how fast that white spot returns to the surrounding color. So I hope that's easy. Now, this was an interesting question. I currently use medium pressure on the air bands. Please, when you first start, all KAATSU users, it doesn't matter if you're a Navy SEAL, Olympic athlete, playing the NFL or NBA, always start at least one KAATSU cycle in the low mode, in a low pressure mode. Then after that, that gives your vascular system enough time to warm up. Then you progress to your normal pressure, which in this case was a medium, or in some people's case, they can go immediately from the low to a high. Now, the second question is obviously related. How do you determine when to increase the pressure, the SKU, from low to medium to high? Again, check your capillary refill time. If it's quick, go ahead and increase. If it's not as quick, if it's 2 seconds or more, so 1001, 1002, and it's still white, then stay on the pressure that you're on. And then also, how do you determine when to increase the weight you're using? Well, this question is both simple and it's complicated. So it depends really what you want to achieve. Some people want to increase muscle stamina. Some people want to increase muscle size. And some people want to increase muscle strength. Some people want to increase their strength in order to, I don't know, drive their golf ball further. Some people want to increase strength because, I don't know, they're rehabbing from a surgery. Some people want to turn a new corner, maybe it's a New Year's resolution, and just improve their body mass index. But you should increase the weight when you can handle what we call in the KAATSU world a 3-point exercise test. And this test is, we put on the bands, we use a certain weight, I'll call it 5 pounds. And then you do 3, we'll call it, just pick an example, we'll call it the bicep curl. So on the bicep curl, you do 1 set to failure. Failure means that you can't lift it anymore, or you maybe your form is off. So let's say I took a 5-pound weight, I used the medium air band or medium pressure and started to do a bicep curl. In the beginning, it's quite easy. And even when I'm up at the 20th repetition, it's still relatively easy. But then when I get to 30, 40, or 50, it then becomes more difficult. At some point, I have to stop. When you stop, wait no more than 20 seconds, no more than 20 seconds. Before 20 seconds, start your second repetition, second set. Then continue the number of bicep curls until failure again. Most probably, you will fail in a lower number than you did on the first set. So the first set, let's just pick a easy number. You did 30 repetitions. You rest no more than 20 seconds, and that's very, very important. And then you do the second set. Let's say that you did 30 again. If you did 30 again, you either can increase the weight or you can increase the pressure. Now, let's say that you did 30 reps the first set. You did 25, only 25 reps on the second set. That is good. You rest 20 seconds and you start your third set. Your third set, let's say you did 15 reps only, and then you went to muscular failure. That's really good. In this case, the weight you're using is appropriate. So in other words, the weight that you're using should be, and you could do this simple test, do 3 sets of the same exercise, use only 20 seconds rest in between, and see if you go from a higher number of repetitions to a lower number of repetitions. If you go from a higher number to a lower number, in this case that I explained, it went from 30 to 20 to 15, that's very good, and keep the weight as is. However, if you do 3 sets and you do 30, wait 20 seconds, you're able to do 30 repetitions again. You rest 20 seconds, you're able to do 30 repetitions again. Then you can either increase the weight or, better yet, you increase the pressure. So now I'll go to the question number 3. Bodybuilders and regular people who work out with weights stress the importance of eating a lot of animal protein to build muscle. It is a relief that I have not heard anything of the kind from Dr. Sato. What is Dr. Sato's stand on this subject? In fact, Dr. Sato is a very knowledgeable nutritionist, but he's also Japanese. So Dr. Sato eats an extraordinarily balanced diet. Dr. Sato, here he is here. I believe he was either 72 or 73 when this picture was taken. You can see him here. I think he was 71, 70, about 70 in this photograph. He was a little bit older in this photograph. These are not, this is not touched up. This is actually Dr. Sato's office. You can see a lot of weight equipment in the background, and he does not use any of these weights. When he does all of this exercises on this equipment, he takes the pin out and he either does 1 plate or no plate. So in other words, he's doing less than, in most cases, less than 10 kilograms, more likely 5 kilograms, double that weight. So he's using 10 or 20 pounds. That is all that he uses. What Dr. Sato focuses on, and this was the original KAATSU machine that we developed back in 2004, what he does instead of increasing weight is he increases pressure. Now, in Dr. Sato's case, he uses an extraordinarily high pressure. He starts out at 100 SKU, but then over time, and I'll explain his bodybuilding process in a little bit, then he progresses from 100 SKU to 110 to 120, 130, etc. He starts to lift or do these exercises. Again, he doesn't lift weight. He just moves the bar. He does that between 350 SKU and 400 SKU. That is extraordinarily high pressure, extraordinarily high. I don't recommend anybody use this same pressure. Dr. Sato, again, he's 76, and he's been doing KAATSU since he was 18, or some form of KAATSU since he was 18. So his vascular system and his musculature has developed and acclimated to this kind of training. sometimes people tell me that, oh, they also do 400 SKU, but keep in mind that when Dr. Sato does KAATSU, when we all do KAATSU, our bands should be placed on what we call a one finger tightness. In other words, we could only put one finger between the band and our skin. Now, Dr. Sato does eat protein, but he also eats a lot of vegetables. He also eats a lot of fruit. He also eats a lot of rice. When I say a lot, not over indulgence, but he just eats a very balanced meal. When we're quite often, this is one of our young KAATSU specialists. He went over to Japan to train with him. We actually spent more time discussing nutrition as opposed to discussing how to build muscle. Dr. Sato is very focused on adequate rest, good sleep, balanced nutrition, with not a focus on being a carnivore, being vegan, being in ketosis, etc. He actually eats the fruits of the season or the vegetables of the season. So it's something that he advocates that we do. Many people who have visited KAATSU have asked him about, weight or time restricted diets, etc. And Dr. Sato, broad shoulders, big arms, very extraordinarily fit. When you put a pulse oximeter on his fingertips, it's usually 100%. His vascularity is very good. His waist size is 29. And he eats well, but he doesn't overindulge in anything. So he drinks tea. He doesn't drink alcohol. So to answer your question, the reason why you haven't heard anything about Dr. Sato about eating lots of protein is because he doesn't eat a lot of anything. He has a very balanced meal, and that's what he strongly advocates. Next question is, can I do KAATSU multiple times, 2 or 3 times a day on a 3-minute cycle sets every day? Absolutely. In fact, this is a podiatrist who also visited Dr. Sato years ago. It was very funny. When we met Dr. Sato in this very office here, we sat down and in the very first meeting, we were all interested in what Dr. Sato was doing. And as we were drinking tea and just discussing, personal aspects of everybody's life, where are you from, where'd you go to school, et cetera, he put his bands on his arms and he just started to cycle. And the doctors who were there, Dr. Peter Lansbury, a professor of neurology at the Harvard Medical School, Dr. Lyle Nelly, a podiatrist in Southern California, Dr. Jim Stray Gunderson, and others, they were quite interested. Why was Dr. Sato just sitting there? All he was doing was sitting there and doing the KAATSU cycles. And he says, "Oh, I'm working out." And they said, well, you're not doing anything. He says, I'm absolutely doing something. And they asked him, what, can you please explain what you're doing? He says, I'm exercising from the inside out. What he was doing is and that's when he was explaining to the physicians, I'm actually increasing the elasticity of my vascular tissue. That is the catalyst for a hormonal response. I'm actually just talking with his hands and standing up, writing on the whiteboard or demonstrating different movements. He was actually creating lactate in his muscles, very slight, but lactate in his muscles. And he explained you can do that well. And Dr. Nally took it to heart, typing on the keyboard. He explained to Dr. Nelly, when he sees patients, he can put the bands on his arms or his legs and walk around the clinic. That is enough Now, in Dr. Sato's case, what he likes to do is he likes to do KAATSU at least 3 times a day. So generally in the morning meetings, he'll do it. I'll just say mid-morning. Meetings will continue. He'll do it again in the mid-afternoon. Again, all while sitting down or at the whiteboard, not doing any exercises as we would define it as Westerners, but from his perspective, he was exercising. He was engorging his arms or his legs in blood. And then he said the reason why he does it two times a day before his main workout. He enjoys working out in the evening. In the evening, he explained, I've already warmed up my vascular tissue. I've already elicited a hormonal response. So my workout of the evening, which he does after dinner, usually about an hour or two after dinner, he says his muscles are ready to go. They've already been warmed up because he's worked out, quote, 2 times a day. So those of us at KAATSU Global, when we're in our own offices, when we are talking to people, when we're on Zoom, I'm sharing my screen, but you can actually hear my B2 going. I'm actually working out as I'm giving this webinar. And so Dr. Nelly did the same thing. He learned that when he goes back to his office and is updating his reports or is, doing his regular work, he can be doing the KAATSU on his arms or his legs. So doing it twice, 2 or 3 times a day is perfectly okay. Always use the KAATSU cycle mode. You can do it while you're sitting, watching TV, reading, gardening, cleaning dishes, you name it. And you could do it during office work, while you're watching your grandchildren, whatever. Sorry. Wait. I want to, oh, here we go. Next workout. The next question is, can I wear my leg bands in the cycle mode and still do a hard upper body workout? The answer to this is absolutely. And so we have in the KAATSU world, we have 4 limbs. Well, obvious. What I meant is, in the KAATSU world, we can work out, we can recover, we can rehabilitate because we have an opportunity to work out on our 2 arms and our 2 legs. It doesn't really matter if I have the bands on my legs and I'm doing an upper body workout, or I have the bands on my upper body, my arms, and I'm doing a lower body workout. We're still engorging a limb in blood and we can proceed. Sometimes this is actually what we want to do. You could be a wrestler, you can be an archer, you could be doing all kinds of stuff. You could be a runner, a swimmer, a rower, you name it. And because we're all using our 4 limbs at some point in all of these competitions or our regular human activities, you can put the bands on your arms or your legs and still focus on whatever part of the body you're working out on. You see here, this is Dr. Corey Kern. He has created a lot of videos for us. And I believe this is a video. Let me see if it'll go. Here we go. So you see the KAATSU bands on Dr. Corey's legs, and he alternates a bunch of, steps ups. He'll do some pull-ups here. I mean, he does all kinds of stuff while the bands are on his legs. You see him working on his upper body. And he just does this rotation while he has the bands on. And you can see this is his 4th set. So he's got a lot of lactate. He does a variety of workout either with the bands on his arms or his legs. And this is his 5th set of this particular exercise. So you can always use the bands on either your arms while you're walking or your legs while you're doing an upper body workout. This. Here's 4 different questions from a 67-year-old user. And can KAATSU be effective if used with isometric exercises? Secondly, can KAATSU be effective if used while working out on a total gym? Third, does using heavier weights while working the KAATSU increase results, or should I stick to light weights? 4, how many times per week should I use KAATSU? I'm 67 years old, and strength and muscle growth and maintenance are my main goals. So let's take this one by one. He's 67 years old. Dr. Sato is about 10 years older than him. And Dr. Sato is using it 3 times a day, 7 days a week. Now, you don't have to do it as much as Dr. Sato does, but a lot of our users, I'm 62, I'll use it on my arms and legs at least once a day while I'm sitting in the office and typing out emails or doing other office work. So you can use KAATSU daily. It is intended to be used daily. If you don't use it daily, that's okay. But we believe that KAATSU should be used at least 3 times a week. If you have the unit, if you've made the investment in KAATSU, we strongly encourage you to use it daily. If you don't use it daily, please use it at least 3 times a week. Now, KAATSU can be extraordinarily effective when used with isometric exercises. So in other words, what you're doing is you're either pushing against something or pulling something while the muscle is not moving. So think of it like a plank. Think of it like a wall sit. Think of it like just holding a what do you call it? A push-up, either when your chest is near the ground or your chest is more elevated. So this is extraordinarily effective, and Dr. Sato does recommend that we do KAATSU with isometric exercises. Reason why is in the tests that were done at the University of Tokyo Hospital, what we found was that more muscle fibers were activated, the slower the movement of the limb, and that was max when the limb wasn't moving but was being stressed. So in other words, when we stress the muscle by, let's say, holding our palms together and pushing them against one another, or being in the push-up position, sort of in the down position while you're holding your body up, or being in a squat position and just keeping your legs at a 90-degree angle, at your knee. These, you will feel the lactate burn. You'll feel your muscles really start to work very, very quickly. And so Dr. Sato does, and we recommend that you incorporate some sort of isometric exercises with your traditional exercises that you do when your limbs are moving, like a bicep curl or a squat. Can KAATSU be effective if used working out on a total gym? Yes. It doesn't really matter what the equipment is. It could be a stationary bicycle. It could be a rowing machine. It could be anything that you can see in any gymnasium anywhere in the world. Now, you should be careful, because what you want to do, again, if your goal is strength and muscle growth, which they are with this 67-year-old, it is better to move the limb more slowly than quickly. Now, that being said, if you are an athlete, a dancer, a ballerina, an archer, a sniper, etc., some of the things that you are preparing your body to do are being done quickly. Let's say a golfer, going to drive the ball, or a volleyball player jumping up and hitting the ball over the net, or a boxer making a certain move. In these particular cases, you want to work out at the speed in which you want to perform. So let's just take a baseball pitcher. You can use them on your arms or your legs while you're throwing pitches. However, if you're trying to increase your muscle mass, increase the strength, then you should be moving your muscles much more slowly than traditional weight training, that pace of, let's say, a 1001 or a count 2 up and a count 2 down. Do a count 4. In other words, if I did a bicep curl, I would start with my arms down below my hips and then slowly lift them up on a count of 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then down also slowly. So in other words, you want to move the arms slowly in eccentric and concentric directions. So you want to move your arms up and slowly down while using KAATSU if your goal is strength and muscle growth. If your goal, on the other hand, is to do something more quickly, let's say you're a 100-meter dash runner, let's say you're a long jumper, let's say you are a wrestler or do jujitsu, then some of the things you want to do is quickly. You want to move the body quickly or move the limb quickly. In these cases, you want to move the limb, you want to practice moving the limb as quickly in the weight room or the gym as you do out when you're performing. Third question, does using heavier weights while wearing KAATSU increase results, or should I stick to light weights? This is actually a personal preference that you can decide upon. The people who equate improvement with heavier weights, what I always say is, why don't you stick with the light weights, but once a week, don't do KAATSU. Work out as you traditionally did years before KAATSU came on the scene. So in other words, if you go to the gym 3 or 5 times a week, do once a week when you're just doing your regular traditional weightlifting. Use the heavy weights. And usually when people do this, they say, oh, wow, I can actually lift heavier now, even though I'm using less weight with KAATSU. And the reason why is when we engorge a limb in blood, when we engorge a muscle in blood, it actually activates more muscle fiber than it does without an engorgement of blood. And so we're actually being more effective, more efficient, lifting or doing any kind of movement when that muscle is engorged in blood, as opposed to the blood just being normal without any KAATSU. So if you prefer to lift heavier, that's okay. What I would recommend is you actually test for yourself. Try to lift heavier weights when you have KAATSU. Usually what happens is your workouts are shorter. And we sometimes equate that to, let's say we have a barbell, and let's say we're using 10-pound weights. Well, if you want to increase a heavier weight, you would put 10-pound plates on either side. So you're increasing the bar, let's say 20 pounds, and then you're lifting some amount. At some point, you get tired and you put it down. With KAATSU, you can be much more subtle. So in other words, you can lift, let's say, that same barbell, but then instead of putting an additional 10-pound plate on either side of the bar, you increase the pressure by just 5 SKU. What this is effectively doing is, instead of adding 20 pounds of weight to that barbell, you're adding, let's say, 20 ounces. Now you're able to do more repetitions with a slightly heavier effective weight. The bar is the same weight, but with a greater pressure, you're putting more stress on your muscles. When you put more stress on your muscles, you're building lactate. When you're building lactate, you're now secreting growth hormone. When you're secreting growth hormone, you're helping maintain and grow that muscle. So we always recommend increasing the pressure as opposed to increasing the weight. This is actually Dr. Sato. Again, I wanted to show, this is Justin Gatlin. He's a very fast American sprinter, won 5 Olympic medals in sprinting. He came to see Dr. Sato because, during his peak, he also was competing against another famous runner, Usain Bolt. And Dr. Sato was explaining to him, his coach was off the side here, but he was explaining to him how KAATSU can actually help. In Justin's case, he needed his lower body was stronger than his upper body, but to run at the speeds that he was doing, he needed to increase the speed of his arm movements. And then it was very interesting. One of his legs, his left leg, was stronger than his right leg. So what Dr. Sato was doing was just applying a band to his left leg. But I also wanted you to show this photograph. This again, Dr. Sato's office, in that here was an 5-time Olympic medalist, came to see Dr. Sato in order to get stronger. Here he was in the office with all this weight equipment, and they didn't use one bit of equipment during the day that they were together. What they did do was explain what the right pressure was for Justin, how to find it, and how to utilize it in his training. And this is Dr. Sato. There's an earlier photograph, but you can see his bicep, his triceps are tremendous. And again, he's using either one plate or no plates when he uses his equipment in his office. I'll continue. I'm a new user to KAATSU, but I'm very excited about using my KAATSU C4 and doing so correctly. How do you attach the control module? I tried putting it in my shirt pocket, but when I move, the shirt touches the screen and pauses the device. I try to clip it to various parts of my clothing, neck, collar, pants, pocket, but I'm fearful that it will come off. I don't want to damage it. So that question was, Dr. Sato actually had the same issue. So what Dr. Sato created was sort of a necklace, if you will. And this is this is our KAATSU Cycle 2.0. The C4 that the gentleman has is the same size. So all he did is Dr. Sato put it around his neck, and then he attaches the tubes either on to his armbands or to his leg bands. Other people do a variety of other things. Some people put it in a fanny pack. Some people actually just use the belt clip to put on to the end of their bands. I'm sorry, their pants, the top of their pants or top of their shorts. But that's what some people have done. I'll continue. When I do exercises for the body core, my chest, back, and abs, is it best if I use the armbands or the leg bands a better choice? And this is a very good question. All in all, if you had to do a choice between the armbands and the leg bands, we always recommend using the leg bands. And the reason why is our legs have much more vascular tissue in them. They're obviously, the legs are longer than the arms. It's got bigger muscles. You got your quads, you have your hamstrings. And so if you're going to do something, put them on your legs, even though you're working on your chest, back, or abs. And this is what we recommend, although people do both. So, but for our standard recommendation is, given a choice between the arm bands and leg bands, we recommend the leg bands when working on the back and abs. For the chest, you can use it on the arms. You can see here, this is we were actually in the North Shore, Hawaii, teaching KAATSU to the lifeguards. They have to be extraordinarily fit. They have to fight through very large ocean waves and surf. And so we were teaching them how to work their core. In this case, we have the bands around their legs, and then we ask them to stand on one leg while the bands are inflated. And this actually puts a lot of pressure on your abs. This is a very standard KAATSU abdominal exercise, also helpful for the lower back. Simply stand on one foot until you can't anymore. Then you can switch and then stand on the other leg. And this is a very, very good abdominal exercise. Then I think I have some other for you. These are some college athletes who visited me out in Southern California, and we were doing a variety of plank exercises. Two of them had bands on their legs, these two here. Two of them had bands on their arms. I was simply showing them they could be working on their upper body and core. It did not matter whether they have the bands on their legs or their arms. In general, the male athletes prefer the bands on their on their arms, and the female athletes prefer it on their legs. But that's just a generality. This was an example of a young man that we were working on, and he was just quite happy with his bicep. And this was a case that we started with the KAATSU cycle mode, started in the low pressure, checked his capillary refill time. Once his capillary refill time was suitably fast, we increased it to medium, and then did a few more cycles, then checked his capillary refill time, saw it was suitably fast, then moved to the high pressure. And then we did a variety of simple bicep poses. That's all we did. He didn't move his arm. He would just flexing and then relax, flexing, relax, flexing, relax. We did many sets of those. And then this was the outcome of that particular exercise. I'll go back to the question. Next, fourth part of this question was, I do my repetitions at a slow to medium pace and pause when the muscle is contracted the most for a second. I am doing 20 to 30 reps. Does that sound right, or should I be doing more? Okay, something similar to this. If he were doing what he just did, slow bicep reps, what he should be doing is 3 to 4 sets, slow to medium pace. That's very good. You can even slow it down a little more. So you're doing all the reps at a slow pace. Then you can either use weight or don't use any weight whatsoever. And then when your hand gets at the top, you contract the muscle again. If you want even more stress on the body, you contract the muscle, either in the upper body or lower body, as you're going up and down. So you're contracting the muscle the entire way. And this would be very, very effective for you. But it's also very important that you have a decreasing number of repetitions on each subsequent set. So what you would like is to do, let's say 30 repetitions or perhaps even 40 repetitions. The first set, rest no more than 20 seconds. And that restriction on rest is very, very key. And the reason why is when our muscle, or when we're not moving the muscle, during those 20 seconds, the amount of lactate in the muscle, it dissipates, it goes away, but not completely. And that's what we want to see. We want to see that lactate gradually build up in the muscle. So no rest, no more than 20 seconds when you're going through the repetitions. And then on one of the videos I watched, this guy uses his KAATSU every day, twice a day. So I'm doing this as well, just confirming this is okay. Yes, it is A-okay. 2 or 3 times a day is perfectly fine. I would space it out by at least 4 hours, and then make sure that each time you use KAATSU, you're very well hydrated. And so you want to remain well hydrated when you're doing KAATSU at all times. Oh, I forgot why. Oh, this is just another example of an isometric hold. This young athlete, we had her leg bands on, and then she was just holding this position, and it would come down. So it was just another form of isometric exercises that we were doing. Question number 8, please explain the mechanism by which using KAATSU, it is not necessary nor even advisable to use heavy weights. I am 66 years old and keen to maintain my muscles, for which I get compliments, by the way, even from young people. I hear repeatedly that for health and longevity it is necessary to lift heavy. Is using KAATSU with lower weights physiologically the same as lifting heavy weights without? I can appreciate that it's a huge benefit not having to find and lift heavy weights, not at least, which is a reduction in risk of injury. But I do want to make sure that I'm not missing out on the benefits of using heavy weights in my training. By the way, I know that I am strong relative to my peers. So this question sort of follows the previous questions that we had. If you would like to use heavy weights, if that is something that you like to do, and I remember visiting a NFL training room, and some of the guys understood KAATSU, they felt the burn, and one of the guys told me, well, yeah, but I just like the sound of the heavy weights hitting the ground. He says, it makes me feel strong. And I said to him, great, then continue using the heavy weights. What you can do is use KAATSU every day to either recover from the use of your heavy weights, or in the off season or pre-season, or while you're traveling, you could be doing KAATSU when you don't have access to heavy weights. Now, as we get older, obviously using heavy weights, there is a reduction in risk, but for some people, they just really like using heavy weights. And what I explained before, if you do that, let's say pick a day, pick Friday, pick Wednesday, a day that you just work out with heavy weights, and you can actually see and monitor your process. So what I always say is, if you're 66 years old, with KAATSU, we want you to be just as strong as you are at 66 as you will be when you're 76. Or if you're 76, with KAATSU, we want you to be just as strong as you are when you're 86. In order to do that, you need to be doing KAATSU nearly every day. But you don't have to be lifting weights every day. You can lift weights very lightly, but repeatedly with higher pressure. And this is why in the KAATSU units that we have low pressure, medium pressure, high pressure, and then we have custom pressure. Custom pressure is a kind of pressure which you could set for yourself. It's lower than the lowest pressure, and it's higher than the high pressure. So in other words, when Dr. Sato uses KAATSU, he goes to the custom SKU choice, and he puts it, as I said previously, to 300 to 400 SKU. He doesn't have to lift anything more than 10 kilograms because he is using such a high pressure. Now, what he's also doing, in addition to maintaining his muscle mass, maintaining his strength, he also very, very importantly is maintaining the elasticity of his vascular tissue. In other words, when he puts that pulse oximeter on his fingertips, that blood oxygen, that oxygenated blood is the same as when it's coming out of his heart. It's 100%. For people in the 70s, that's highly unusual. So again, the fundamental premise of KAATSU is to increase the elasticity of your vascular tissue. That's what we're trying to do. Maintaining muscle mass is great and is one of the outcomes. Generating a robust hormonal response is great and is one of the outcomes. But at the very fundamental level, we're engorging the limbs and blood in order to maintain and increase that elasticity. As a result, strength gains, muscle mass gains can be achieved. I think I have some illustrations. This is same thing. So here, this arm literally is working out, even though she is not doing anything. She is a right-hander. So she is, she uses this arm the course of her work. She's an esthetician. So she does a lot of waxing and other things. But just look at her arm when she's doing KAATSU. Her left arm, her non-dominant arm, appears and is stronger at this point in time. That is what we're doing when we have KAATSU on in the cycle mode. This is this representation, this KAATSU situation, when she has the band on her upper arm, is represented by this image. This is an image. The band this is an image of an upper arm. The band is sitting roughly in this direction. This is the armpit down here. Her hands is on the other side. And when the band is at 300 SKU, which is a fairly high pressure, you can see that the artery, this is the artery, there's no change in the artery, or very, very little, but you can see a very slight indentation or a decreased girth of the vein here, circumference of the vein. So what's happening is blood is going into the arm normally. Blood is going into the arm normally, down to the hand, and is returning back. But just this slight compression is leading to this physiological state. And this physiological state means that these veins here pop out more than normal. That elicits a hormonal response. And that is why the arm or your legs or your core can be maintained with KAATSU. So what really happens, this is another illustration here, is that this is an illustration of a muscle. We build up lactic acid or lactate, demonstrated by these green molecules. That is their emergence or their production sends a signal up through the central nervous system, up to our pituitary gland. Pituitary gland senses some stress on our body. It doesn't know where the stress is, and it releases or secretes growth hormone. Those growth hormone flows throughout the body through our vascular tissue. And when it gets to the muscle that is being stressed, in this, let's say this case, the bicep, then those growth hormone, that is what they do. They help heal that micro stress, that micro trauma that we have in the muscle, therefore allowing it to grow or maintain itself. If you have interest, we have a booklet that Dr. Sato created 25 years ago, and it's called KAATSU Impact, and it has all of these various illustrations, here and all the ones that I previously showed. So if you would like that copy of that, I think it's about 16 pages of various illustrations and explanations. please send us an email at info, at kaatsu.com. So info at KAATSU.com, and we can send you out this illustrative pamphlet that can help you better understand KAATSU. To continue, does KAATSU have an effect on Raynaud's disease, either positive or negative? And has there been any studies with KAATSU and peripheral neuropathy? Two questions that I'll answer with these photographs. Does KAATSU have any effect on Raynaud's disease? So what's happening is when we put the bands on, we are actually engorging the limb and blood, as we've seen many times with this photograph. And then the illustration can show that these capillaries get engorged. That's why the lady's palms, or Dr. Sato's palms, get quite red and rosy. Now, when you have Raynaud's disease, the elasticity of your fingertips isn't normal. And people with Raynaud's disease, their fingertips or their toes are often white. Their hands are usually cold to the touch. And this is, an issue for many people. With KAATSU, we always encourage the people who have Raynaud's to, when they're doing KAATSU, is actually use the pressure lower than low or low at the most. And reason why is for reasons that I don't particularly understand. They have this disease called Raynaud's. Their capillaries at the end of their fingertips does not have the same elasticity, the same blood flow as people without Raynaud's disease. And so that is a lifelong condition. So what we do with KAATSU is we slowly, very gradually want to we want to engorge the capillaries with blood, but we want to do so gently, not forcefully, gently. And that's why we use very, very low pressure, lower than low. That's why you would use the custom pressure setting, where the pressure is very, very low. And you, again, because this is a lifelong condition, it won't be automatically changed in a matter of days or weeks or even months. It will take some time. Always use low pressure. So the only negativity we have with using Raynaud's disease are people who have Raynaud's disease and attempt to use KAATSU or any kind of BFR at the same pressure, and it literally hurts them. Their fingertips hurt. It isn't that the KAATSU has hurt them. It's that they're forcing blood into capillaries that are not elastic enough yet. And so, like anything, we start off slowly, we start off gently, and we do that consistently time after time. In terms of neuropathy, which was the second part of this question, has there been any studies with KAATSU and peripheral neuropathy? We have a variety of studies, but I think this photograph of this special operations soldier, Jonathan Blank, is very telling. Unfortunately, his legs were blown off in war, and he is in tremendous pain. But what you can see here is we actually put a KAATSU on his, we call this residual limb, on his residual limb. His other leg was amputated all the way up to his hip, so there's no possibility to have a unit here or a band on this non-existent limb. You can see the smile that Jonathan has. He very much feels much better. Now, it was very interesting because Jonathan, when he put on one band, he felt better, but he, being a special forces soldier, he just wanted to sort of push the envelope. So in his particular case, which we don't recommend anybody else, but he's a W amputee. And you can see physically he's still very strong, very fit. So we actually put bands on his arms in addition to one leg band. And for him, he felt much better. He gave us the shaka sign with his right hand. And we see about 80% of people with peripheral neuropathy report feeling better. Again, you have to be very careful, use very low pressure to start, and you decide how much pressure you want to increase to help. But again, like the people with Raynaud's, we want to slowly, very slowly engorge the ends of the fingertips or hands or feet or toes very, very gradually with KAATSU. You don't have to do vigorous exercise. You don't have to do anything intensely. You could just lie there as Jonathan did. And I have this is another example, and I want you to look at Justin. He's a U.S. Marine. I want you to look at the end of his residual limb. I think there's about a 2-minute video, but it's also very telling. Look, just listen to what Justin says, but keep an eye on here, and I'll explain what happens after.
This is Justin. He just experienced his first KAATSU cycles on his arm that he had to get amputated after a crazy story we won't go into right now. But Justin, give me the basics on what your arm feels like now after 2 KAATSU cycles, man.
It definitely feels.
I want to make sure people can hear this. I don't know if people can hear what is happening, and if not, I'm going to summarize. So this is oops. Let's see, 2 people raise their hands. Going to Mary, you raised your hand. Could you hear the video?
Yes, I can.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Okay, I'll continue the video. Let's see. Where am I? I got where the PowerPoint is. Where is the PowerPoint? Oh, here we go.
Better. I can feel like the bone doesn't hurt as much, and I can definitely feel the difference in the arm where the vascular system, it helps me move it freely and a whole lot less pain.
Less pain,
Less pain.
better circulation,
Much better.
and less pain.
Absolutely.
Holy crap, dude. That's why I joined this company, man. Awesome. Thank you very much. And again, Marine Corps Devil Dogs with his new prosthetic from Walter Reed. Look at this. It's like Luke Skywalker's new hand. Give me a full extension, bro. This is right after doing KAATSU. Does it feel any different after doing KAATSU with it?
It feels like I have a little bit more control of it. It feels like the sensors are getting better contact from where it needs to get to. But yeah, I definitely feel like I can move it a lot better.
Right on, dude. Say hi to Dr. Sato.
What's going on, Dr. Sato?
Awesome. We're gonna change your world, brother. Nice.
Rock on.
KAATSU cycles. He's on cycle medium.
Watch it.
And he started at 10 pounds. Actually, he started way too heavy, 25. We immediately went down to 10, then 8. Now he's at 5 pounds. Justin, KAATSU cycles with movement like this. What's it feel like?
Oh, it's ridiculous. Feels like I'm doing 80 pounds rather than 5.
Get after it, brother. How's your left arm feeling?
Like I got weight in that one too. It's feeling good.
Excellent. Keep going, brother. Give me 2 more. Good job. Justin, this is going to Dr. Sato now. What do you think?
Hey, Dr. Sato, I've been working with John for the past couple of days with this KAATSU program, and it is just absolutely amazing. I used it yesterday, and I'm using it today. Last night, my pain was significantly reduced when I was there. It was just impressive, man. I mean, obviously amazing. And I put my prosthetic on, and I could fire it better. And this is just an amazing program, and I really appreciate it. I really do.
Awesome. Thanks, Justin.
No worries, thank you,
And
guys.
you'll be getting one in a few days. Compliments of Operation Healing Forces, brother.
KAATSU strong, brother.
Awesome. Thanks, man.
Good luck.
Okay, so I just want to go back
Dr.
to
Sato, man.
right here.
Healing.
So notice the end of his residual limb. Look at how it's moving.
I got weight on that one too, it's feeling good.
Excellent. Keep going, brother. Give me two more. Good job. Justin.
Okay, so what Justin has said, and the person who was narrating this was 25-year Navy SEAL veteran John Doolittle, and we work with a lot of wounded warriors and provide KAATSU to these individuals, like Jonathan Blank, the double leg amputee. But what was important here to realize that Justin said, it feels like I had weight in this arm too. He has no hand, there is no dumbbell, but he feels like this arm is lifting weights. And this is what Dr. Sato meant by saying we're exercising from the inside out. And you can definitely see that here.
Like I got weight on that one too, it's feeling good.
Excellent. Keep going, brother. Give me two more. Good job.
So in other words, we don't have any, to go back to the question, we haven't done any studies with KAATSU and different kinds of peripheral neuropathy, but our anecdotal evidence, especially by our wounded warriors who use KAATSU, with leg issues, phantom pain, amputees, it extraordinarily helps. And if you have any specific questions on this for your specific needs, please email us at info@kaatsu.com, and then we can recommend certain different exercise, different movements with KAATSU that can help. I believe there's 4 more questions yeah, go. I'll be 82 and have been using KAATSU for over a year, but was only doing KAATSU a few times a week, not really knowing what to do. Recently, I watched more videos and saw that it could be used every day, which I've been doing well over a week or 2. I know it works, so I have muscles with definition in my arms from just doing the few times a week, but doing KAATSU every day seems to be altering my whole being. Most people think I'm in my 60s. Nurses, when I go for my checkup, think so, and they are surprised to see I'm 82 and not on any medication. I believe this is going to keep me functioning well if I learned how to use it correctly. I just want to make sure I'm not overdoing it. I'm doing my arms in the morning for 6 low-pressure KAATSU cycle sets, and then repeating it, doing it on my legs at night. I do exercise mild with the arms, but just do legs resting, sometimes 6 KAATSU cycle sets, and sometimes repeat. Is this something good for me, or is it too much? Just right. Obviously, the results speak for themselves. I think in your particular case, you found the optimal pressure, which is low pressure. You found the optimal number, 6 sets, both on your arms and your legs. I think that is also very important. A lot of people like either doing just arms or just legs, and we always recommend do both arms and do both legs. You can obviously do them separately. And this is not too much for you. This is very good for you. And I think the results speak for themselves. Some people just do stretching with KAATSU. Just simple stretching is good for us. This woman had breast cancer. She was in remission. And so what we were trying to do here is build up her weaker side. And so I think these are 2-pound weights. You can see the band only on one side. So we often do KAATSU. We call it single limb KAATSU on one side, the side that we had a surgery on, or we had some affliction or condition. And in this case, she started off with the KAATSU cycle. Then she finished off with a KAATSU constant, just doing simple set of bicep curls, because again, she had the breast cancer on this side. Almost finished here. I'm 74 and have used KAATSU every day, sometimes 2 a day, for over a year, working out with Laurel Cousins 2 times a week and other activities. I don't feel like I'm building muscles and strength, especially with gentle exercise, which is advocated with KAATSU. This seems like a very gradual process to build muscle tone. I used to feel stronger with weights in the gym. I also had a broken arm 3 years ago, surgery with pins and a plate, and got KAATSU to heal it. I still have a lot of pain there. I get a lot of lactate acid buildup after workout, which takes a few days to go away. Any suggestions for that? So this is the exact opposite of the 82-year-olds. The 82-year-old, in the previous question, she saw very good results. She's an 82-year-old who people think are in her 60s. This 74-year-old is been doing KAATSU every day. That's good. For over a year, that's very good. She worked out with Laurel Cousins. Laurel was one of our specialists that gave she gave over 100 1-hour KAATSU sessions during when we were in a pandemic. We were in California, and we had a lot of people log on and watch Laurel. Laurel is an extraordinarily fit former collegiate athlete. She's incredibly fit, and so a lot of her exercises, we had high school and college athletes do them, and we always recommended that if you're older or not as strong, that you modified those exercises, and Laurel taught people how to do that. So this is a example of a customer. I'd have to delve more deeply into why in the latter part of the question, she says she builds up a lot of lactic acid after workout, which takes a few days to go away. That's a long time for lactic acid to be in the body. So one suggestion that I would recommend, if you're not doing so already, is to be very well hydrated before and during your KAATSU workout. Now, if you're just doing very gentle exercises, but you're building up lactic acid, there needs to be some reason why, because in general, you build up more lactic acid when you do vigorous exercise than if you do gentle exercise. So we're not quite sure how that is there, but because you used to feel stronger with weights in a gym, then why don't we modify your program and use KAATSU with weights in the gym or at home? So if you're not using any weights, then use light weights like this woman, probably also around 70 years old, 60, 70 years old. So I would recommend that you do light weights with that. In terms of having a broken arm, and I assume that pins are still in the arm, the plate obviously is, but you still have a lot of pain there. So we'd have to address your issues offline, which again, just email us the same question at info@kaatsu.com, and we can find out why. I'm not quite sure if KAATSU is causing the pain, or maybe there's some kind of movements that we can recommend that you do so the pain can be decreased. Just for everybody's, this is Laurel. This is one of the exercises that she used to teach. I'll just let this roll for a minute.
Squats are one of my favorite lower body exercises. They help open up the hips as well as strengthen the quads and the glutes. So let's start with our stance. Stepping the feet slightly wider than hip distance. I take a little baby V shape with my feet. That's to help open up the hip. An important thing here. I want your weight to be in your heels. So think about dancing all 10 toes off the floor and waiting low. Good. As you release your toes down, keep the weight in your heels. Start to extend your arms forward and drive your hips back behind you, keeping a lift of the chest. And we rise to stand. Another option. You can do these with hands on hips. I'll rotate to the side, keeping the weight in the heels. Drive your hips back so that my knees don't get front loaded. And we come all the way up. One more thing to note. As you're doing your squats, we want that movement to be a bend in the legs, the lower body, and not a slouch in the upper body. So we drop low and we press all the way up to stand.
So those are some of the things that Laura used to do. Again, for this 74-year-old, perhaps you want to use some light weights with KAATSU, and then you can see if that helps you feel stronger. But again, if you're not using weights, but you're using weights with KAATSU, we also want to make sure that your lactic acid buildup isn't affecting you as it should not be. But again, if you have any questions about this particular lecture or other information, always email us at info@kaatsu.com, and either myself or our staff can help address any questions that you have. How and when can we use KAATSU bands with blood donation? And how to use KAATSU if you have low blood pressure? So the first one, if you're going to donate blood, what we recommend is you do your standard low pressure KAATSU cycle sets before you donate blood. That would be very good. But after you donate blood, wait at least 8 hours. Let's say you donate blood at, I don't know, 10 a.m. or 12 noon. I would wait preferably until the next day. But if you needed to and wanted to and felt a need to, you could do KAATSU again, low pressure cycles in the cycle mode, 8 p.m. on. But I would allow at least 8 hours, preferably a half a day. Ideally, the next day, you can return to your use of KAATSU. Before, not a problem, very good. After, wait a half day, ideally wait to the next day. If you have low blood pressure, there should be no contraindication for you. The only thing that we would recommend is follow all of the KAATSU protocols. In other words, be very well hydrated before and during KAATSU. Always check your capillary refill time. So make sure that your hands are pink or rosy. Never put the bands too tight or use too high a pressure or use too high a weight and your hands go white or blue or gray. That would be not very good. We don't want you to faint. And so if you do feel any kind of lightheadedness, immediately take off the bands. You can actually lie down and put your feet up. So you can use KAATSU, but make sure you follow 100%, strictly follow 100% of our protocols, and always be cognizant of any uncomfortableness or different feeling that you might have. And if that's the case, you immediately take off the bands. This is, just sitting down before a blood pressure, I'm sorry, a blood donation. So just sitting down comfortably doing the KAATSU cycle. People who have low blood pressure, including our amputees, again, always, you can start off with the arms, very low pressure, or if you have Raynaud's, MS, any kind of neuropathy, you can start off with lower than low pressure in the custom mode, and then go to the legs. I believe this is the last question, then we can open it up. I have a power plate, and from time to time, they appear to recommend using BFR. I know KAATSU is not BFR. My question is, do you recommend using KAATSU with a power plate, and why or why not? We recommend, you can use KAATSU with any form of equipment. The only reason we don't recommend using KAATSU with a power plate is because we've had one user who actually was on a power plate with KAATSU, and it was way too much pressure for her. Not KAATSU pressure, but there was too much stress on her, and she fell over. And the last thing we want you to do is get lightheaded, fall over, or have too much stress on the muscle, your legs, and fall over. And so since that time, we've recommended not using KAATSU with a power plate or even a Bosu ball or anything else, because we're fearful that people would not be able to handle the stress and would fall over. Now, that being said, there are people who are strong and are quite capable of doing KAATSU on a power plate or Bosu ball. This was one woman. This is a half Bosu ball, and so you can see how she uses her armbands as she's balancing on this half Bosu ball. But this is a shot that I took of her in one direction, but when you see her intensity of her face, you can see that it required a lot of her strength to maintain this. So we just always recommend, if it's a power plate, Bosu ball, any kind of vibration, any kind of movement, even a treadmill, just be very, very careful and know your strengths and know your limitations. And just be careful when you purposely created an unstable situation when you're doing the exercise with KAATSU. And this is, I'm going to stop this here. And if I see we have lots of questions, I can continue with the questions. And let's see. So the first question is, my husband and I have been doing KAATSU for over a year now, on and off. I still don't know how long I should go. Right now, I'm at high 4 sets. I'm concentrating on legs as I have strength and balance issues. Everybody is different. I think the biggest thing to work on is frequency. A lot of people ask about weights, pressures, and types of exercises, but what we always recommend is focus on frequency. So the more that you do KAATSU, the better. We've done this a variety of testing at the University of Tokyo Hospital for 10-year period using 12,000 patients. The more frequently that people use KAATSU, the higher benefit they did. It was a cumulative effect. And so you're on high, you're doing 4 sets. Why don't you start off with a low set, at least one low pressure cycle set, and then proceed up, checking your capillary refill time. I'm going to put my KAATSU B2 unit on. I'm going to show you the KAATSU refill time effect as I have my get my app going here. It's on, and I'm going to do next, repeat, and it's now, I just have it on one arm, so have one band here. We'll let this go for a while. So again, start off with low pressure, as I did here. I'm actually at 90, 100 SKU, so that's pretty low, but it will go up quite high in the progressive mode. So always start off low and then proceed to high. 4 sets is good, but I would do 4 sets every day, or at least 5 times a week. That would be best. Next question is, I was on a Zoom with you about 2 weeks ago you recommended I start the advanced cycle. I go out and walk and use the progressive button in advance. When the cycle is over, the controller goes off and I can't start or open another cycle. Is that a defect in the controller? It's less than a year old. Please advise. So you have, I assume, I don't know if you have the B2 device or you have the B2 is this one here, or the C4. And so what he's saying is, I'm going to stop it here. I'm going to go back. So in our unit, we have a cycle mode, which is our very basic, and then we have an advanced mode. And so when I hit advanced here, you'll see a progressive and then a reverse and constant. You can ignore these two right now. So he presses the progressive. Oops, sorry. Hit the progressive and I'm on my arms. So I'm going to hit here. And then I'm just going to use the standard for this. So it starts at 80 SKU and goes up to 230. If I want to customize it, I would do this and I would change all the numbers. But I'm going to go back. I'm going to hit here. So as this is progressing, what you're saying is you go out for a walk and when the cycle is finished, the controller goes off. So this goes off. And I can't start it or stop to do another cycle. That is definitely a defect because I haven't seen that defect. So the best thing for you to do is call info at or send an email or call our number and explain that program. The best thing to do is actually get on the line with them and then they can actually see what's going on. I don't know why the controller would shut off. If it shuts off just randomly, then that is definitely a defect and we can replace or repair that, not a problem. Next question is, does KAATSU positively affect vascular tissue in the heart or other trunk area versus only in the arms and legs? It primarily does it in the arms and legs, but remember how you increase elasticity of your capillaries and veins. And I think I have, let me try to find, I'm going to try to find an illustration on this and then which is easier to show. Let me, here it is. Let me share my screen and that way it's easier to explain. Okay, here we go here. This is the, this was that KAATSU impact illustration, sorry, a booklet that if you would like, we can share with you. But what's happening here is, here it is. So this is when we do KAATSU here, what's happening is we're giving off vascular endothelial cells, or they call it VEGF, vascular endothelial growth factor. And this actually helps the elasticity of our blood vessels. But this, where it occurs, is immaterial to helping the elasticity throughout the body. So whether it's your brain, your torso, or your arms or legs, the entire system is getting the benefit of these vascular endothelial cells. And that nitric oxide and other elements that are actually helping the blood vessel walls is actually throughout the body. And therefore, this is precisely why we had a team of cardiologists do the initial 10-year study on KAATSU. So we did a 10-year study on over 12,000 people by cardiologists, a large team of cardiologists at the University of Tokyo Hospital, before we even started the company to share KAATSU with the world. We wanted to make sure that what we were saying was clinically correct and scientifically proven. And so we didn't work, well, we did work with, but our focus was on cardiologists. And our primary work was with cardiologists. It wasn't with it wasn't primarily with an exercise physiologist or a PhD in physical therapy. It was actually with cardiologists. So the answer to that is yes. Next question. I saw your video recently saying that you should not work out using constant pressure, KAATSU. I remember the protocol used to be 3 sets until technical failure per exercise, with a total session no longer than 15 minutes. Why has the protocol changed? Is it not safe to lift weights using constant pressure, KAATSU? Yes, the recommended protocol has changed. This question actually comes from a very long time user. Back in 2014, our primary users were Olympic athletes. Olympic athletes and soldiers. In other words, young people, young, very fit people who are exercising daily. Now, dial forward 10 years, most of our users are over the age of 60. So how KAATSU is used for people, over 70% of our users are over the age of 60. So how we work with people over the age of 60 is necessarily different than when we're working with Olympic athletes and young, fit soldiers. So 10 years ago, when our primary focus was on Olympic athletes and soldiers, what they did was they used KAATSU cycles, and then they would, because they were focused on various things, they were using the KAATSU constant mode. No more than 15 minutes. We've actually changed those protocols. We know that you can work out with the cycle mode, as I am doing right here. Because now we have no tubes, the ability to work out extraordinarily hard in the cycle mode is much more effective than working out in the constant mode at any pressure. I don't have tubes to worry about. And so, yes, our protocols have changed over these 10 years. One, because our equipment design has changed and we believe has changed for the better. And two, because the demographics of our customers have dramatically increased. In fact, we probably take our average age in 2014 and our average age in 2024, it's 3 times as old. So when you have a customer base that is in its early 20s versus a customer base that is in its 60s, 70s, and 80s, you necessarily change the protocols in order to address what they're doing. But if I look at what our Olympic athletes are doing, our soldiers, they are often doing the KAATSU constant. But if they have the newest units, the KAATSU B2 as I have on this arm, then they can do their work in the cycle mode continuously. And I don't know, so I've had this on now for about, 8 minutes. So I don't know the lighting here. You can see how when I have KAATSU on the low pressure on my arm versus not arm, you can see the difference in the coloration. Even the vein dilation is greater on both sides. I don't know if there's any difference in size, but in reality, what's happening is when this KAATSU cycle is going, pressure on, pressure off for 30 seconds by 5 seconds, this is the effect. This is the effect of my KAATSU. And you can see that this arm, metabolically speaking, at a cellular level is working out. And this arm is simply at homeostasis. So it's pink here. I'm not quite sure if it appears so on the screen, but you can certainly see the difference on the other side of my hand. Next question. I use KAATSU after injecting stem cell into the shoulder for an injury to improve recovery. Okay. Let's see. So you are injecting stem cells into your shoulder for an injury, and you're doing stem cell therapy, and you could certainly do KAATSU to continue that recovery after. I would always follow the basic KAATSU protocols, be well hydrated, start off in low pressure, do KAATSU cycles, do it frequently. Okay. Let's see. So the woman who had a problem with her progressive cycle shutting off has a KAATSU C4. So I would recommend that you call KAATSU, explain the problem with them, and the person who answered phone will be able to work either work you through and resolve that problem, or repair or replace your C4 unit. I am 88 years old and I've been using KAATSU for 3 years. My normal workout is lifting 12 pounds for 75 reps, after which I do 5 sessions of 15 reps, all at the high level, which I can tolerate fairly easily. That sounds absolutely incredible. My hat's off to you. I would want to make sure that when you put the bands on, you can only put one finger in as opposed to 2 or 3. So the band should be on fairly tight. If you're putting on the band snugly, we say, you put on the band snugly and you're still able to lift 12 pounds 75 times, and then you do 5 more sessions at 15 reps, all at the high pressure at the age of 78, my hat's off to you. Great job. Next question is, for how long? I don't know. For how long should you do KAATSU? When we have KAATSU, whatever product we have, just the cycle mode, you can have arms. Just put on low. We have up to 6 sets. So that's our basic recommendation, is do 6 sets. Each set is about 6 to 7 minutes long. So this is about 35 to 40 minutes of work when you do 6 cycle sets. So that would be a very good in itself. That would be the maximum, and then you would do that with the arms and then also with the legs. The 88-year-old man who says he's lifting 12 pounds 75 times and then 15 reps 5 times asks, am I overdoing my workout? Well, you're doing it, and then you said you can tolerate it fairly easily. So I would say you're not overdoing your workout. What I would simply ask is if you're doing the one finger tightness on your arms and your legs. And then I would also want to make sure that you're doing both the upper body and the lower body. If you do the lower body, remember you can stand on one leg or balance on one leg with the leg bands on, and also work on your core. You can also do so by simply, like I don't do, is sit up quite straight in a chair while you're watching a movie, typing emails, or reading. And this also helps work the core. Then the same 88-year-old asks another question. After the weights, I leave the bands on for 6 full cycles. Perfect. So what he is doing is he's doing a very good recovery mode after he does his very vigorous workout. I have the older model of KAATSU. Do I need the newer unit upgrade? If your current model works, no need to change. The only reason why I personally use the latest B series, so B2, this is the model I have, is because I don't have any more tubes. And I like not having tubes connected to my bands. The reason why is I almost exclusively use my KAATSU at my home or office. And when I get up, I'm always catching the tubes on doorknobs and cabinets and you name it, and it drives me crazy. So without any tubes, I have complete freedom of movement and without any worry whatsoever catching things. So I personally like the upgrade, but again, I was in New York City. I was at one of our oldest users, phenomenal trainer, Jim Clary. And I was waiting in his lobby for him, and one of his clients came, and she had a KAATSU Nano device. That KAATSU Nano device was manufactured and sold in 2014, 10 years ago. She still has that unit. She's still using that unit. I went to a Thanksgiving party with Dr. Lyle Nelly, the podiatrist, and I met an old early user. He also surprised me. He said, I still use my old KAATSU Nano device. Again, a product that we sold 10 years ago. So we still have people using the KAATSU Nano device, with a big clunky thing like this. And so it works. So if it works, no need to change. But if you like something without tubes, then the Bike B2 is a great unit. I'm healing a bicep and trapezoid tendonitis. Can I use KAATSU for this? Yes. So for that, I would definitely recommend that you do KAATSU daily. I definitely recommend that you start off in a low pressure mode. I definitely recommend that you do it while you're sitting, while you're wiping the countertop, while you're doing something. But you can do, and this is for people who have carpal tunnel syndrome or neuropathy, etc. We have, and unfortunately I don't have it at my desk right here, just very slight squeeze balls. You don't have to do something very vigorous, just something very slight, or take a wet rag and move it, in a clockwise and counterclockwise direction. Just do some slight movement with KAATSU in the low pressure. Do it daily and see if that helps. Next question. When I was watching TV, I put the KAATSU at custom at 400 for a full 6 cycles. It takes 45 minutes. I'm able to tolerate it well. Is this counterindicative? No, not at all. This is great. This is quite good. Again, this is the 88-year-old again, very vigorous guy. So you're at the very, very high end, top end of our human capabilities. This is great. Keep it up. Next question: can a person who has a pacemaker use KAATSU? There should be. Again, the reason why we worked for 10 years, and this is where I was studying under Dr. Sato, with a team of cardiologists at the University of Tokyo Hospital, and all those people who are undergoing cardiac rehab, was to prove that KAATSU can be used by people who had a heart attack, stroke, pacemaker, stent, you have it. And that's where we found out how gentle KAATSU can be. So the previous question was, did you change your protocols? Well, when we came to the United States, we were dealing with Olympic athletes and soldiers, generally a population that does not have pacemakers or has experienced a stroke, a heart attack. or has stents or pacemakers in it. So we could push people a little bit harder, push our users harder. Now, other than the 80-year-old or KAATSU hero, we want to use KAATSU very, very gently. And I know one of the users, the gentle recommendations that we made were not providing favorable results to her. Others have. But in general, so there's always an exception to the rule, but we want to make sure that the person that was an exception, somehow we can modify her program so she does see good results. But the first thing we always say is, of course, talk to your cardiologist. If possible, show the cardiologist the product. I myself showed my cardiologist or asked my cardiologist about KAATSU. He said, no way, no how, you can't do that. It's dangerous. I would avoid it at all costs. It turns out that that same cardiologist is now a KAATSU user. And he recommends that I continue what I do. So again, sometimes when you're with a physician who does not know KAATSU, the first thing they do is they Google KAATSU. First thing they will see is BFR. They will see a modified tourniquet, which is not KAATSU. They will see that a concept called limb occlusion pressure, which is not KAATSU. And of course, they would feel alarmed. At the University of California, San Francisco Hospital, they use all kinds of KAATSU, BFR products, but the products they use for people who are undergoing certain conditions is only KAATSU, because it's gentle, because the arterial flow into the arms, legs are not occluded. So again, as long as you can speak with your physician, speak with your cardiologist, and then show ideally or explain what KAATSU does, and he or she, if they have any questions, we can also provide a variety of published papers on KAATSU that were written by cardiologists. Will our questions be answered by email? The questions that you send to us by email will be answered by email. The questions that are in this Q&A session, they won't be answered by email. However, this session is being recorded, and so we'll post this online. And so if you want to refer to something that I said, it will be online. But if you wanted to repeat your questions, send them to us by email. We will return our reply by email. Next question, can you use a low impact vibration machine like the Juvent with KAATSU? We addressed this previously. You can. Right now, we don't recommend that people use with vibration equipment of any sort, but that's because we had a user who did have a problem. She put on KAATSU, she stood up on the vibration plate, the stress was too much, she fell over. She didn't hurt herself, but she fell over, and she could have hurt herself. And so our recommendation is that you don't do it. However, we know that people do use it, and we hope that they are very judicious and careful with the amount of stress that can be combined with KAATSU and a low impact vibration plate. Next question is, my arm broke on October 2nd, just under the shoulder. Is this where the band would go? Should I do it? So you had an arm break right here in the humerus. I would assume that's exactly where my own son broke his arm when he was 14. He had a very interesting experience. We had him do KAATSU. He went to the hospital. He actually broke his wrist and his humerus, and he was in a full cast. What we did was we did KAATSU on his other arm, and my poor son, his young arm that was in a cast actually grew in size, and his arm grew inside the cast. They had to break the cast open and then recast them. And so we didn't use the KAATSU bands on his broken arm. The reason why is he had his cast that went way up here. So there's no room to put on KAATSU, but we did KAATSU on his other arm and his 2 legs. So you have 4 opportunities with KAATSU, 2 arms and 2 legs, unless you're like an unfortunate experience like Jonathan Blank, and you can use those to you can use any one of the 4 limbs to affect positive change. Next question is, can you do your arms and legs both at the same time? How long should I do it for? 3 sets, 5 minutes for each arm, and then legs. No, one of the KAATSU very, very adamant protocols or protocols that we adamantly want everybody to strictly adhere to is to not do the arms and legs at the same time. A, it's not necessary. B, what will happen is, as you can see with one arm, with my KAATSU arm, if I had this much extra blood here, this much extra blood here, and this extra amount of blood in both of my legs, then I necessarily have lesser blood in my head and my torso. If I were at high altitude, let's say Park City, Utah, Colorado Springs, Denver, you name it, or I was doing vigorous exercise, let's say I was doing jumping squats, let's say I was on a treadmill, then what may happen is I may get lightheaded. If I get lightheaded, I can faint. If I faint, I can fall down and hurt myself. So it's not necessary, and it's potentially risky. I'll give you one little hint. We were working with the Melbourne Kangaroos and a very well-established Australian rules football team in Park City, Utah. So that's it. I don't know. I think that's probably 6,000 feet at altitude. And the team doctor asked the same exact question: can we do KAATSU on the arms and legs together? I said, definitely not. He said, well, I beg to differ. Let's see what happens. These are professional athletes. They're extraordinarily fit young men. And I said, well, doctor, they're at altitude. Don't do arms and legs. He said, I'm a doctor. I can handle it. They started to do jumping squats. I would say definitely within 60 seconds, but probably more 45 seconds. I have actually video of this somewhere. There were 4 men. They started to do it. They started to jump high. They started to hold their head. 2 of them left the room. They got nauseous. They got lightheaded, and they vomited. They did 3 things that we definitely don't want you to do. Did it on both the arms and legs, did vigorous exercise, and they were at high altitude. When you're at high altitude, we suggest that you put the pressure down a bit. And so we definitely don't want you to do arms and legs at the same time. If you want to build up your biceps and you want to go for a walk, you can put the leg bands on the arms and simply do air biceps slowly as you're contracting the muscle. If you don't have any time, or you don't have much time, and you want to really get an intense workout for a short period of time, let's say under 4 minutes, put your leg bands on and maybe do a wall sit as you're doing bicep curls as you're contracting the muscle. You will get, and you could see here, suddenly this arm is bigger than this arm. Or conversely, put your armbands on and do a wall sit, or do some kind of stationary bicycle, etc. How long should you do it? Again, the standard protocol, if you want to do the maximum, as we explain on the cycle, is you can do up to 6 sets, both on the arms and the legs. 6 sets will take you between 36 and 45 minutes. We recommend that you first do the arms and then do the legs. But some people just only do legs. Some people just do arms. That's up to you. Next question is, can you do KAATSU with chemo treatments? the steroids are turning me into flab. Can I use it despite this treatment? We've actually had lots of people use KAATSU with chemo treatments. Lots. Prostate, lung, leukemia, a breast, and some kind of skin cancer that I know of, like in the recent 3 months. Of course, if you feel badly after a chemo treatment, avoid it there. But in between days, we have had also pancreatic cancer. In between the treatment days, they get up, they walk around their house, they walk in the backyard, they walk their dog, they do something with KAATSU. And all of these patients have emailed us and expressed their appreciation for KAATSU. So you can, and you know your body better than anybody else. And so if you can incorporate this, most oncologists will recommend that you do some sort of exercise, and enhancing it with KAATSU would be to your benefit. Does KAATSU improve heart rate variability? I think we had this question the last time, and the answer is maybe. It's somewhere between maybe and no, and I don't know. Reason why is we've had people who've claimed it doesn't. We've had people say it's unclear, and we have people who say it does. We'll wait for the University of Pacific. Their researchers are doing a rather large study on heart rate variability. But again, I told them that you'll have some patients who will improve, some people will have no improvement. So yeah, that's my honest answer. I don't know. Yes and no. Somewhere lies the truth for you as an individual, and it may be different for other people. I'm 67 years old and have osteoporosis. Will doing KAATSU help strengthen my bones? The answer there is, if you send us an email with that same question, we'll send you out information on why it will, and why it does. And so just email us at info@kaatsu.com, and we'll send you out the scientific literature on this. When you have osteoporosis and you have KAATSU, what we recommend is doing weight-bearing exercises. And the best weight-bearing exercise that we've seen prove beneficial is simply walking, KAATSU walking. And that is the biggest application of KAATSU in Japan, where KAATSU originated. And that's simply putting KAATSU on your legs and then going for a walk. Next question is, can KAATSU help reduce my peripheral neuropathy as a result of my chemo infusion therapy for cancer? Possibly. And it has helped. We have to state here, KAATSU is not a modality that can help heal or cure anything specific. KAATSU is a modality that, remember, in the very beginning of this webinar, was to increase the elasticity of your vascular tissue. In the process of doing that, it elicits a hormonal response. So if you increase your vascular elasticity, and you have Raynaud's disease, MS, or neuropathy, it can help, and it has helped many, but there are also some people who it's not helped for whatever reason. We had the 74-year-old who's done KAATSU religiously for a year, and she has seen pain increase, and she has seen a lessening of her muscular strength. So, there's always exceptions. And so what we want to do is when we see and hear of those exceptions, we want to understand how do they use it, and if there are ways that we can help modify their use in order to help them achieve their goals. So the answer to that question honestly would be possibly, but let's look at what KAATSU does, not what it cures or heals, because we can't say that it cures or heals anything. We can say what it factually does. Next question, where do we see this recording? Cite the video being shown. What is the name of KAATSU videos? If you go to kaatsu.com, our website, and you go way down to the bottom of our website, you'll see some icons for Instagram and YouTube. Click on the YouTube link, and that'll take you directly to the KAATSU channel. So just website, kaatsu.com, scroll all the way down to the bottom. You'll see a YouTube, the little red icon. Click on the YouTube icon, and that will take you directly to the KAATSU Global channel, where we have hundreds of videos. Some of them include Laurel Cousins and other people who have given a variety of other testimonials. Last question is, do you have any dietary recommendations? Japanese, maybe. This is my first Zoom with you. We slightly addressed that issue. Because I so greatly respect Dr. Sato, and I see his physicality. I see his health. At 76 years old, he's never been had any major disease or illness. His vascular tissue is so elastic. I'm doing KAATSU right now, and you see the difference in my skin. When Dr. Sato just sits there and does KAATSU as I'm doing, his hands and arms, they get almost a purplish redness to them. His vascular tissue is so elastic, and he's just so physically resilient and strong. And what he recommended is, a balanced meal with, proteins and carbohydrates and starches and fats and fruits and vegetables. And I've been working with him now for 20, almost, it's coming up on 25 years. We've never had a bad meal. He eats sandwiches sometimes, and chicken other times, and steak other times. Obviously, in Japan, we have all kinds of Japanese food, including fried food, tempura. But we have soups, we have noodles. If somebody looked at Dr. Sato's diet and the nutrition that he has had, and they were a carnivore, a vegan, a vegetarian, they love talking about their ketosis, etc. They would say, "No, that's not right." But for him and for me, a balanced meal with moderate volume is the way to go. So it's been a little over 2 hours, I noticed. Sorry, I was having too much fun here. And thank you very much, everybody, for asking all those questions. Again, info@kaatsu.com. If there was something that was unclear, send the email. We'll answer with the email. Or if you want to talk to someone, Monday through Friday, we're available. We're still a small company, but we do answer the phone. If our customer service and myself are not available, we'll answer your call. Unfortunately, we're not available 24/7, but we do answer it with a human. And thank you very much for everything. And see you next time. Bye.